Friends, we are coming to the last two sessions of today's Learnathon. And one session, I'm sure, as per the communication received by me, many of the friends have been waiting for. It is my privilege to now invite and introduce our past international director, Line AP Singh, a practicing chartered accountant, a person who has motivated me tremendously to take up training and facilitation. I met him first in the year 2002 when I was district cabinet secretary. And in the very first meeting, it was like, wow, if I could be even a 1% of how Line AP Singh is, I would be a better human being, a wonderful trainer, a wonderful motivator. The person who has continuously guided me and always motivated me, a speaker par excellence, having wonderful thoughts, and for whom people really wait that when will AP come. So I would not like to take much time, and if he gets 1 or 2 minutes extra from beginning, I think that will be for the benefit of everybody. With these few words, I would like to now request Anand to hand over the presentation rights. I think he's already given it to AP sir. And I must definitely mention here that this webinar would not have been possible without his guidance and support. As I mentioned in the morning as well, we are using their platform. And thank you, Line APG, for always motivating me and being the role model for this Learnathon. The stage is now yours, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And first of all, congratulations to everybody who's involved in setting up this training session right from the morning till, I mean, it's going on to 9 p.m. and that's kind of unheard of. I wasn't very sure initially when we thought how many people would stay on for the entire day. But then this has been exceptional, and the participants need to be congratulated and complimented for the manner in which they have tried to make the best out of this opportunity. Friends, I will be speaking to you today about this topic, which is leadership for the future. The first question that arises is, what is the future? I mean, what do we mean by the word future? To put it very simply, anything that's not the past or the present is the future. You see, there is a moment which is the moment of now. That moment of now, of course, is an extremely fleeting moment, because time itself is nothing but an arbitrary division of infinity. But this fleeting moment, it's here and it's gone. If we get out of that fleeting moment and try to expand it a little more beyond what that fleeting moment is, and get into the chain of those fleeting moments, is what the human mind is capable of trying to analyze as the present. And whatever's happened before that is the past. So instead of trying to define the future, I have got a definition which excludes. So anything that's not the past and the present belongs to the future. And if we go by this subject today, there are two key words. One is the future, and the second is leadership. So what really is leadership? It is the art and science of empowering individuals. So some people try to say it's an art, and some people try to say it's science. I don't want to have any kind of debates about it. So it's the art and science of empowering individuals. Individuals have that capacity within themselves, And when they work alone, they are individuals. When they work together, they are teams. Teams have their own dysfunctions and the factors that bind them together. But this art and science of empowering the individuals and the teams to realize their potential, this realization of the potential is linked with the empowerment, because it essentially refers to what exists within the individuals. It's all there, but it has to be brought out in an acceptable manner. When we talk of the word acceptable manner, there's a lot of ethics about it. There's a lot of stuff about permissibility, the legal permissibility, the social permissibility, and the ethical acceptance of what we are doing. So that is what leadership is all about. And traditionally, when we spoke of leadership, maybe a decade or 2 decades ago, even when we were younger, we talked of leadership as control, advocacy, making assumptions, judgment. We've got to make important judgments. But gradually, it's shifted towards, it's more about coordination. It's more about collaboration. It's about dialogue. It's about an ongoing process. It's about multi-directional issues, multi-directional talents, and multi-directional, forces that come into play. And that whole definition of leadership is kind of shifting over a period of time. So we are today going to be dealing with the future of leadership and leadership in the future. But the question that arises is, whom does the future belong to? Even in our own organization, if you look at it community-wise, you look at it from the point of the nation, you look at it from the point of the entire planet, the answer will continue to remain the same. The future belongs to the next generation. We borrow a day, every day is borrowed from the next generation. We have got empirical proof to demonstrate that millennials are the next biggest working group in the world. And these millennials come with certain characteristics. First of all, they're tech savvy, they're ambitious, they're lifestyle conscious, they're driven by the rules, they are bottom line conscious, they're globally connected, they're extremely mobile. This is what defines the millennials. And when some of us, the generation to which we belong and the generation even before that, when we see this work, this style of the lifestyle of the millennials, we often get disturbed. There's nothing that we can do about it. This is their style. This is kind of a given. We will have to stay with it. Now, of course, when we are in the COVID-19 period, we will see what the world does and what the world brings to the mobility factor of it. The last factor, nobody knows. In fact, what's happened in the last couple of months is a great example of what we say, that the future has a tremendous disconnect with the past and the present. And the speed of this disconnect is getting more and more. It's an extremely fast pace. This speed is getting to be more and more. This speed is getting to be really challenging. For who would have really even imagined, say, a few months ago, that the entire world would get into a situation like this? We often said, and that's a fact, that the biggest industry in the world is the travel industry, the leisure industry, the hospitality industry. Who would even think that the entire wheels of these industries could be, brought to a standstill, and at a global level, nobody knowing what to do with it? This was kind of unimaginable, save and except for that one clipping which is there in the TED Talks by Bill Gates, who about 5 years ago said that the next biggest challenge that the human race will face will not come from the ammunition and the arms and the bombings. It will come from the microbiological organisms. And in that very talk of his, he produced a picture, an imaginary picture of a microbiological organism 5 years ago, which is almost identical to the picture of the coronavirus that the entire world is projecting today. Undoubtedly a genius, a mark of a genius, who had that ability to be able to look into the future and say, well, this is the challenge for the future. Now, what does that, when we are in a situation today where we are even more fluid. We don't know what the future really holds, but we need to continue to move forward. So what does the future really mean? It means we are going to be in a constant state of exploration. There is no given status quo. There is nothing called a best situation, that this is the best situation and this is the situation of status quo. It doesn't happen. It's totally out. That concept is kind of over. This is the state of exploration. We have always believed, and more so in the time to come, we will be in this state, exploring, experimenting. So things will go wrong and things will have to be explored again. So as we continue to maintain what is called the success journal, it will be equally important to maintain what is called the failure journal, because every experiment will not be a success at the first attempt alone. This is going to be a world of exploration. This is going to be a world of connectivity, like what we are seeing today. Various NGOs coming together. The networking of the NGOs is going to be a defining factor for the future. NGOs will have their own relative strengths. They will collaborate with their relative strengths. They will leverage the overall productivity for the communities and the nations by collaborating with each other rather than by competing. They will complement and supplement each other. There will be enough space for them. There would be no need, save and except where the needs really exist, but otherwise everybody need not reinvent the wheel. They will be much more closer working with the NGOs. And then this is going to be a world of continuous improvement. Where we are today, we've got to move forward. It's important to follow the best practices, but the word best practices will soon become totally replaced by the words next practices. The best has to be practiced today, but we need to be exploring. That was one of the slides I showed you. We need to be exploring. We need to be looking for what's coming in next, and we need to be continuously improving and that process is called the process of the next practices. So the next practices shall continue to be explored. The next practices shall continue to be discovered over a period of time. And then, of course, if you look at this picture, this is nothing. You see, the picture that you see on the left of your screen is the sky on a clear night. Well, some of us are going up to our terraces and looking at the sky, and the sky is looking bright with the stars, as we used to see in the textbooks or as we used to see when we were kids. For most of the last couple of the decades, the skies through the cities did not look like this. And that was because of the smog and the pollution. But skies again beginning to look this way. And if you look at the picture on the right, it's all those dots and the marks and the stars that they're on the left. They've been put in an organized way on the right. If you look at them on the left, that's the way nature portrays it. If you look at them on the right, that's the way somebody who's, a very orderly person has put them in an orderly shape. The lesson that comes out from here is we will have to learn to live with the chaos and appreciate with the chaos, because the chaos is not really a chaos. That is the way the nature is. Similarly, in our own lifestyle, within our own organizations, within Lions clubs, within our own clubs, within our own districts, we may often find as if things are not falling into a straight line, into an absolutely symmetrical model. Things will not fall into an absolutely symmetrical model because there are human beings, there are human minds, there are human emotional forces, there are biases, prejudices, there are likes and dislikes, there are various cross currents that flow. And those cross currents and everything else that I have mentioned will create a picture of relationships as appears on the left. And that's what we've got to be able to learn to negotiate and learn to move forward with. You look at this slide, which is there. In this slide, the zone which is in the middle, which is called the challenge zone. That is the zone where There's neither a complete agreement nor a complete disagreement. There's neither total certainty nor a total uncertainty, and that's the challenge zone. In the in the in the extreme right, in the extreme right top quadrant, you find the edge of chaos. That's a stage where there is total uncertainty. Some of us today may believe that the world is entering or has entered that quadrant, the edge of chaos, because there is uncertainty about the manner in which this COVID-19 situation would be tackled. The whole challenge before the scientists of the world, the sociologists, and everybody involved with the healthcare and with the management of the masses is to bring back the communities and the nations from that area which belongs to the edge of chaos into a more central zone, which will be the challenge zone. We will never be able to get into the quadrant which is right there, where there is total agreement and there is total certainty, which the area of status quo. That's not going to happen. It's too challenging a world. Our life will continue to be in that challenge zone which is there. Co-creation of the future, self-organizing systems, adaptive leadership, breaking with the past, because the future is going to be so different. It's not going to belong to what the past is. Working with dialogues and discussions, as I said, leadership, the whole concept of leadership has moved away. So even today, if you look at it, the entire world is being challenged as if the world has been forced by the coronavirus to cross that fringe and enter the edge of chaos. The whole attempt is to pull the world back, and that is leadership at the global level. The same happens in our organizations. The same happens in our clubs. The same happens in our districts. We've got to keep it in that middle zone. And that is, once again, I'm just repeating, that is the zone of exploration. That is the zone of learning. That is the zone of finding out and deciphering what the next practices are all about. And if when someone asks me, what is the future of Lions Clubs International? This is the best term that I have been able to kind of get at in the last couple of years. I have used this term over the last 2 years in some of the seminars in India and in some other parts of the world. And I believe this is the future, to be an Amazon of service. Lions Clubs International, the world's biggest service club organization, will become someday the world's biggest platform of service, where those who have the ability to contribute and those who have stuff that they can provide will talk about that this is the resources available. And those that who are coming from the other side and who believe that there are needs. So this platform will marry the resources and the needs. The moment the resources and the needs get married, well, basically that's what our organization is doing. And it is doing through traditional clubs. It will continue to do through the traditional clubs, but the real leveraging will occur at some point of time when we become the Amazon of service. Look for it, the example of Uber. Not a single vehicle owned by the company, but the world's biggest transportation provider to the human beings. Look at Airbnb, not a single property owned by the company, but it sells more rooms than the world's biggest hotel chains put together. Why? Because they are the aggregators. This is going to be a world of the aggregators. So can we become the Amazon of service, the aggregators of the resources and of those who have the needs? If we can, well, that's going to be our future, and that's just my opinion. One thing that really continues to hit us is the love for mediocrity. We will have to get out of this love for mediocrity. We as an organization, if we belong to the top, we've got to be top class. I don't mean to say that this is going to be an organization of only individuals who are the top notches. Even I don't belong there. There are minds which are much more fruitful. There are minds which are much more productive than me. I would not belong there. When we talk of mediocrity, it's mediocrity in ethics. It's mediocrity in application. It's mediocrity in one's own commitment. That's where our standards have really come down into the mediocrity. That's what we need to really get out of it. And what will be the principles that will drive us, the challenges in the future for the Lions leadership, the competency framework for the future leadership, and what does it mean to the LCI? These are four different factors that we are now going to look at. The first one of them being the principles that drive us. And the principles that drive us, number one is change is the only sustainable tradition. There's always been a war, kind of a conflict between traditions and change. I've tried to get out of that war or a conflict. Why do we need a conflict between tradition and change? Why don't we approach it with a different mindset? That change is the only sustainable tradition. Let us make that a tradition within our own organization. If you read the book, The Tipping Point, the tipping point states that there are some who are the early innovators, and there are some who are the laggards. There are others who fall into the other three categories. Now, one thing is for very sure, no matter how big an organization we may be, no matter that we are getting big in the terms of numbers of clubs, so many countries and so many continents, but we definitely cannot belong to the last part of the laggards. If we are not in the 2.5% of the innovators, we've definitely got to come within the 13.5% of the early adapters, or at worst, among the very early part of the early majority of 34%. That's where we've got to get ourselves, because we've got to stay contemporary. We don't stay contemporary, we lose out, because this world's changing. Preferences, loyalties is a very, very fast moving, item. It moves very fast. This is a world, especially in the 21st century, one of the defining features of the 21st century has been that Google has become a verb. Google is the name of a company. It's a noun. It's a proper noun, but it has become a verb. Kya karna hai? Google karo. What do you want to do? Google it and look at it. So Google's become a verb. That's become our lifestyle. That's the way the change has happened. That's the way the adaptability has to move. That's the superb transformation of the entire world that has taken place. This very platform today, from morning 9 o'clock to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 12 hours of leadership training program. 10 years ago, would anybody have thought of it? No. Today, we think of it. Even some time ago, maybe even a couple of years ago, would somebody have thought of it? Individuals from 15 countries joining together informally there. There isn't any structure, there isn't any command. It's getting the community together. And what's the community? Communities of people who want to work together as lions and who believe that we can always talk and we can always improve. It's a community of individuals who believe in improving themselves. That community is caught in here, and they're coming from different parts of the world. And that's because of this lifestyle that Google has become a verb. And this is a world where the future belongs to the Wikipedia, not the encyclopedia, which basically means it's all about sharing. It's all about the best soft practices. It's all about collaboration. It's not a world that belongs to the research analysts only, the super experts. It's everybody getting together, every common man's mind. And that's what makes the Wikipedia. Encyclopedia was compiled by the experts of the board of directors or the board of researchers of that specific encyclopedia. We used to have so many publications of Encyclopedia Britannica or Encyclopedia Americana. Even when I was a kid, I had publications of Encyclopedia Britannica. Maybe I still have somewhere stored many of those volumes, 34, 35 of those volumes, and one volume would be printed each year. But it's all gone. Nobody prints the Encyclopedia Britannica anymore. Why? Because we are into a world of Wikipedia. We need to understand everything that we do in this organization, and this period of COVID-19 is making us even faster to adapt to it. Obsolescence management is the key. I mean, look at it, the way we are adapting to the technology today, irrespective of the age factor. Everybody is accepting this technology. Senior citizens in our own homes, they're working with smartphones. Senior citizens whom we thought maybe 75, 80 years of age, we thought they would not get onto the Facebooks and they'd not get on the WhatsApp. They got on the Facebooks and they got on the WhatsApp. In our own families, we've got seniors who are now getting on the Zoom meetings. With people whom that they like to talk to and spend time with. Even a few months ago, we didn't think that getting together on Zoom meetings and similar other meetings would become a lifestyle of the seniors in our own families, and that also seniors who are 80 plus. But that's what's happening in every family today. Obsolescence management, even they've realized, if we want to live in the past and with the methodologies of the past, it's not going to happen. Because even after the lockdowns broken and COVID-19 strict restrictions are out, do you think the world's going to return suddenly to the pre-COVID-19 state? I don't know when that's going to happen, and I don't know if that's going to happen. And even if it happens, it will happen with many more precautions. And even returning to that is going to take a lot of time. It's going to be a long journey. So be able to manage with the current technology and the current state is something which is extremely important. And we've got to do it even in our own clubs. Are our clubs beginning to meet? Are our clubs having the nomination meetings? Are our clubs having the election meetings? Why are the DG teams trying to hide away from the need of organizing online conventions? Why? I know of district governors who have been supported out of the way, who have been provided with advisories, complete support, complete checklists, everything done up with them, complete hand-holding as is possible to organize online conferences. They still don't want to do it. Why? If they don't do it, how are they going to be able to motivate the clubs to get on with their meetings online? And if the clubs don't get on with the meetings online, which means our own personal operating systems are outdated. And if personal operating systems are outdated, I go back to my previous slide, what's going to happen? If our own previous, oh, it's gone back there. Sorry, I'll just pull it up. If our personal calibrating systems are outdated, we'll be caught up in that what is called the obsolescence issues. What's happening either with the zone chairs, the district, the region chairs, the DG teams, the past governors? No, we won't do it now. We'll do it later. That means you still don't want to put your foot in the future. You don't want to be future ready. You are not ready for even the present. Leave aside the future ready. And if you're not ready for the present, I don't know which era we belong to. Then we belong to the past. And if we belong to the past, we are not contemporary. How do we continue to stay as the world's #1 service club organization? So the personal operating systems, I'm just giving these ideas and thoughts to you because there are a couple of more thoughts to share with. I could spend a lot of time on each one of them, but then these are thoughts for you to think about. How do we change this personal operating system? There isn't a choice. There isn't an option. We need to do it, and we need to do it on a yesterday basis. If we don't, we could be in serious issues. And what are the challenges in the future for the Lions leadership? The challenge number one is balance technical knowledge with the people's skills. That's required today, absolutely today, when our conferences have to be held online, when the multiple district conventions have to be held online, when the cabinet meetings have to be held online, when the council meetings of the Council of Governors must be held online, when our district conferences also need to be held online. This is what it is. There is technical expertise. We will have to go for the technical expertise, but it's not going to be a world or an organization only for the technically super qualified. Those who have the technical expertise will provide it, but the top layer would be with the leadership that knows the emotional skills, the collaborative skills, and the communication skills. That will continue to be the icing on the cake. That will continue to be the top layer. It is this T-shaped leaders who have to be up to date with the technological issues, but the face of it would be emotional, collaborative communication skills. The human face will always be there, but that human face today has to be supported, extremely supported by technological excellence, which cannot be compromised today at all. The next is about brand enhancement and protection. Leave aside enhancement, first it's protection. We've got a brand of Lions Clubs International. We say #1 organization. We say judged by the Financial Times to be the best foundation. We got to protect that brand. The brand can't go to sleep. And the brand doesn't work only if LCIF finds money for it, for a few $1 million to contribute. I do understand that these are not normal times. I do understand that all of us are caught up in our own homes. I do understand very well that there are today limitations on our own earnings with most of us, that our own cash flows will have to be looked into. But we need to keep the organization going. We are not looking for large fundings from you or from anybody. We are not looking for large donations. We've stopped asking for donations for the Campaign 100. This is not the time to ask for large donations for Campaign 100 at all. Or rather, this is not the time at all to ask for Campaign 100 donations. If somebody wants, somebody can, but not a time to ask. But we need to keep the organization going. There has to be a brand protection. How does that happen if our clubs, our zones, our districts, our multiple districts do not keep the business going, binding the people emotionally, helping them with the fellowship, which is online fellowship, giving them that exposures and keeping the business of Lions Clubs, and through Lions Clubs, the business of Lions Clubs International going? That is important at this particular point of time. There has to be respect for diversity. Like in today's, this very sessions, there are individuals, I'm told, from 15 countries. Whatever I say to you can mean different things in different countries. There can be different levels of technological issues in different countries, different communities. We do understand there will never be just one size. One size will never fit all. There has to be respect for diversity. There are parts of the world where the challenge has been much bigger. We pray that those parts of the world where the challenge has not been that bigger, that it doesn't become that bigger. That's fine. Those are our prayers. Those are prayers to God Almighty. But we need to respect this diversity. This is the slide I always put in, because this is a factor which must always be recognized in our organization. And then the leader being the servant for the greater good. A leader is not a leader for one's own good name only. A leader is a servant for the greater good. Now we've got to have that. We've got to make that happen. That's extremely important for us, for the leader to be the servant for the greater good. If that's going to happen, we've got to be able to have our ears closer to the ground. There are times when we need to listen to what the others are saying. But there are times when nobody's saying anything. We need to be able to listen to the sounds of silence. A true leader is one who would also be able to listen to the sounds of silence. Sometimes silence sends a message. It happens in the clubs. It happens in the zones and the districts. It happens at every level. It happens in every organization, business and profit and non-profit organizations. It happens wherever human beings are there. When we have a human face, it's the ability to be able to listen to what the others are saying, and also the ability to be able to listen, which nobody is saying. That's extremely important. And this is a world where the pyramid of leadership is going to be overturned. And this will be overturned so fast. It will be quick action. It will be a rapid force. It will not wait for permissions. It's not waiting for approvals. It's just going to happen. Example, this session which you are holding today, individuals from different multiple districts, individuals with different designations, coming together, invited by an individual who may be having a badge only for one particular district, or yet another individual who is not even having a badge, who's not even a past governor. But he's such individuals coming together and organizing this. Why? Because that was the unspoken demand of the Lions. The Lion, they could feel the pulse, and they felt the pulse properly. And because they could feel the pulse properly, is that this is happening. It's really happening. So the followers will direct the leaders. They actually at a certain point of time in future, and that's going a little further, and that's a different topic altogether. I do like talking about that at some points of time, but I'm just going to touch a fringe of it. Followership is going to be very important. The word leadership, we've spent a lot of time on it. We will, in the times to come, spend a lot of time on followership. There is a lot of expectation from the followers. Followers cannot be quiet. Followers cannot just blindly follow. Followers need to question. Followers need to ask. Followers need to support. Followers will also need to inspire. Followers need to contribute, but followers also need to put their foot down at times. History has shown us that where followers have failed to do that, they have allowed the leaders to drift away. Now, those are different issues altogether, and I'm not going in there. That's a different thing altogether. The responsibility for the bottom line. And this is the one. The use of artificial intelligence. My friends, this is, we are today in COVID-19 world, and where we find it's a very different world. A couple of so many things happening to our own lifestyle that were kind of unthinkable some months ago. Believe me, the presentation that I'm giving you is 100% the presentation. The only thing that I've changed is the insignia at the bottom. This was the presentation given at the Chennai Isame Forum. I felt about it even then. I've been feeling about it even before. It's becoming even more relevant today. Use of artificial intelligence. In our own organization, this use is going to grow. In our businesses, in our professions, this use is going to grow. Artificial intelligence is going to be a driving factor. I wish sometimes we have training sessions. We begin our training sessions with artificial intelligence. We spoke about the general intelligence. We spoke a lot about emotional intelligence. About 10 years ago, we started speaking about emotional intelligence. We started those seminars, we started those webinars. I don't know, the first one, no, even before. The first one I remember I got involved in was almost in 2001 on emotional intelligence. It's almost 20 years. It's time now. And then we talked about spiritual intelligence. Last 8 to 9 years, we've spoken about that. It's now time to start talking about artificial intelligence. This will become an integral part, even the way the organization works, even the way our club, even our business is working this way. So I'm not going to touch or go into the details of it, but maybe if you have friends who have that touch of or the ability to understand what artificial intelligence really means, you could Google it as well. This is the power to be able to use robots in a more simple way. This is the power to leverage technology to do simple tasks, but do them extremely efficiently. This is the power to be able to have technology assist and make our life more meaningful and make our life more simpler, make our life more manageable. It's not something about super technology. Well, that is what the technical experts will do. There is super technology in the smartphone. I mean, there is real super technology in the smartphone, but you and I use it because we just know how to press the right button and how to press on the right link and how to handle that. We don't know how to manufacture that. We have no idea about the scientific layout of the hardware and the software that goes into our smartphones. We don't know that. We don't even go into those details. Similarly, in artificial intelligence, there will be a group of individuals who will be scientifically so strong, who will design that hardware and that software, but the whole world will use it just like we use our smartphones today. And that's going to be the very important issue. What are the competency frameworks for our association? The agility to be able to manage complexity. The situations in future are going to be complex. They aren't going to be simple. It's always there. For example, now how do I explain this? Okay, we always had the problem about pollution, but today we are in a world which is challenged by global warming. Of course, this period of COVID-19 has caused some magical moments. They say that from Jalandhar, you can see the snow-capped mountains again. And there are seniors of that particular city, 75, 80 years old, who say that they used to see it when they were in their teens. And for the last 50, 55 years, they've not seen them. But they are being seen now again today. As they say, Ram Teri Ganga Meli, it had become Meli, but the Ram's Ganga has really beginning to clean up. Delhi's Yamuna is looking neater, that's what I say. Our own sky is looking so much neater. Our pollution levels have come down. What I'm trying to say is pollution was always there, but the complexity was the global warming. Law and order was always a problem, that's always there, but international terrorism is the complexity. So this is a world of complexities, because the world is going to get together, and even the resources come together, they find solutions which are big. The problems come together, the challenges come together, they create super challenges which are complex. Corona, that's one of them. In a world where people would not have been connected, there would have been no flights. People got together from one nation to the other through the boats, and the boats would take months and months to sail. Corona problem would not have existed. Or even if it came up, it would be localized. But today you cannot have those problems localized. It's a complex issue because the world has become very different. It's now going to be not the ability, but the agility to manage complexity, which means the speed at which we manage complexity. That is going to be the key factor. And the next one is collective responsibility for adaptive challenges. There are, we need to adapt. There's everything that we need to adapt around ourselves. We need to understand what's the ethical backdrop. So long as we keep the ethical backdrop, we can keep our contextual and self-regulated and networked issues right there. And we need to build in those connections where we will have to be answerable for those adaptive challenges. Negotiate the roller coaster rides of technological disruptions. Smallest example, I'm told this webinar went off every three hours, and people had to get back. That's a very small example of technological disruption. We started with my LCI in Lions Clubs International. For the first 1 month, reports were so difficult to upload. Some parts the reports just wouldn't go in, the data just won't be taken. Why? Because we were upgrading and it wasn't just happening. Then that's a technological disruption. It causes stress, it causes strain. You suddenly end up in a world as if everything is coming to an end. But these roller coaster rides of technological disruptions are going to be the new normal. They are going to be the new normal. Why? Because this is going to be a world of exploration. This is going to be a world of continuous improvement. This is the world of Kaizen, which is that continuous improvement. This is the same things what we spoke earlier. It's all interconnected. These technological disruptions, it's going to be because our own operating systems, the hardware and the software of the human mind, all these operating systems have to be recalibrated. The moment you do that, it's going to be a new normal. The technological disruptions will be the new normal. Deep listening of multiple voices. Deep listening. I've used the word deep listening because it's sometimes the voices are very, very soft. They're extremely meek and they're extremely as if you can't hear them. But you've got to be able to hear them if you're a leader. If you really want to take your clubs and your district forward, you want to take your business forward, you want to take your family, you want to keep it together, you want to have those all factors bound in together, that's what it is. Deep listening of multiple voices. When we talk of multiple voices, we are referring to various stakeholders. Stakeholders are so many. We've got to be able to listen to the voices of all the stakeholders and build models for our businesses and for our social organization, which is Lions Clubs and Lions Clubs International, that justifies our existence with respect to all the stakeholders. And then we are going to having cross-functional teams. We can forget it. This is going to be a world where there's going to be biomimicry, where a lot of technology is going to be driven by biomimicry, where a lot of technology is going to be driven by, a lot of developments in the commercial world, and the organization studies are going to be driven by what's happening in the scientific world. How do the atoms in this so and so place or this way organize themselves. Now, do we organize our organizations the same way? It's already happening in those researchers. Now, we've got to get cross-functional teams. It's not teams that when you're talking of, for example, now what do I say? You're talking of leadership training. So you call in the GLT people. No, it's not about a GLT alone. It's about a membership as much, because membership cannot grow if the leadership is not properly trained. If every leader at every level is not appropriately trained, it's all linked. We can't, you got to call in the GST as well, because you can't have service programs if the leadership is not proper. And it's the same thing which applies to the membership and service. That's why we moved on to the GAT. GAT is a classic example of a cross-functional team. The first team that we put it on was GMT. Then we brought in the GLT, and then we brought in the GST. We brought in all three of them, and then we merged all three of them, because it's a world of cross-functional teams. You build silos. You say this is the work of GMT and this is the work of GLT. It doesn't happen. It is not the work of the GMT and it's not the work of the GLT. It's the work of the organization. And it doesn't belong to one particular silo. It has to be a world of cross-functional teams. This is a world of resource conservation. We have to be very careful about the resources, monetary and non-monetary resources. We have to justify their spending. And now the last parameter, what does it mean to LCI? What got us here will not get us there. 103 years, 104 years of success in the past is no guarantee for the success in the next 104 years. It's no guarantee for success in the next 54 years either. Leave aside 104 years. Because what happened in the past is not going to happen in the future. That's what I said. Future is what is not the past and the present. And I said, that's my belief, that the future has a lot of disconnect with the past and the present. There's the pace of change, but this pace of change has really been hastened by the COVID-19 phenomena. COVID-19's really hit us. 200,000 individuals all over the world we've lost. What a great loss. And we pray to God Almighty for and have deepest condolences with the families whose individuals have been lost in this. But the fact is, this COVID-19 has created a fast forward effect. There's going to be a fast forward effect in that method, in that pace of change. As it is, the pace of change was fast, it's going to become even faster, because the world in all is going to be different as compared to what it has been before. If you look at it, community. When we spoke of Lions Clubs International, we said we are a community organization. What was the meaning of community? A meaning of community was people who lived together in a geographical location, people living together close by in a, kind of one particular area or one particular town, or maybe one part of a town. That's kind of a community. Now, what's a community today? Today, communities are online. Today, communities are virtual. And those virtual communities is the reality of today. So the word community itself is changing. You go to all the social platforms, social media platforms, and you search what the concept of community is. And we are living by the social media platforms. The whole connotation of community has changed. Haven't we from 15 countries, that's what Rajesh and Anand are talking, haven't we from 15 countries got together for this training program, which is not promoted by the GLT, GMT, or the GAT leaders of 15 countries, which are not promoted by the DG teams and the Council of Governors by the 15 countries, for whose, nothing of that. It's just coming together because it's a community, people who believe that this is value for them here, and there's value, and they've come together. So we've got to understand this evolving concept of community, transparency, and real-time decisions. Decisions aren't going to wait. Decisions aren't going to go through this. Of course, there will be systems. Systems will have to be followed. Systems will have to be respected. Systems will also have to be set. You can't run organizations without that. That's fine. But there has to be real-time decisions, which means not delaying tactics. Reason being, there's so much of transparency. You do that delaying tactics, you get exposed. For the leadership today to play that game is going to be extremely difficult. Extremely difficult to play that game, because there is 100% transparency, and that's what the world is. So if there is a problem, we need to accept it. We need to find solutions. We need to say that we are finding solutions. We need help in finding solutions. We need to ask for help. There is no harm in asking for help. You ask for help, and sometimes you get help from the most unexpected quarters. Whatever, that there be transparency, and we need to take those real-time decisions to move forward. It's going to be a world of global impacts through local actions. I never realized when I had this presentation drafted months and months ago that this would mean so much more today. Global impacts through local actions. Today, there is one impact that we want to make is to slow down the spread of coronavirus. And it's all got to be done through local actions. Every small community, every street, every road, every few houses, we need to restrain ourselves. We need to respect social distancing. We need to do so many other things, which according to the situations, the governments and the health ministries and the other healthcare workers in the respective areas, towns, cities, communities may be requiring us to do. And it's those local actions will ultimately have a global impact. This is truly a world where the twitch of a butterfly in Timbuktu can cause a tsunami in New York. This is truly a world. It can happen. It has happened. Coronavirus is an example of that. We are all interconnected. We are not separated. On a large macro level, our existence is bound by the same principles, by the same risks. We have to mitigate those risks jointly. We have to acknowledge our threats and reduce those threats, as they say in an accountant's or an auditor's language, reduce the threats to an acceptable level. We've got to do it jointly across the entire world. And that's what applies to LCI as well. Multiple bottom lines. It's not only about membership, it's membership and service and leadership and PR, and it's all together. You get one thing, you get everything. You don't get one thing, you don't get anything. It's all interconnected. That's the way it goes. That's the way it happens. And that's the only way things will continue to happen, my dear friends. It's all about intergenerational equity. Whatever we do today must be justified from the point of view of the future generations. As we said, when we talk of the future, every day we live today, we borrowed from the next generation. We are bound to leave the next generation this planet in a slightly better place than what we inherited it. That is intergenerational equity. We owe it to them. And if we owe it to them, we've got to be having donor constituencies. I don't have the time. I will skip over that concept, and I will say it brings us back to square one. As far as LCI is concerned, I believe the future lies in being the Amazon of service. Thank you very much. And with this, I return it back to the organizers for any questions or comments they may have.
Thank you, PIDAP. And the very first question that I have here is, to be an Amazon of service 24/7, you said, most of lions all over the universe use the quote, used to quote you. How we can make our organization word lion as a verb?
I mean, that's all up to us. That's a big dream which really happens. I mean, after all, if in our part of the world, you like, apart from Google, there's another thing. It's called, you get it Xeroxed. Now, Xerox is the name of a company. We don't say you get it photocopied. Even today, most of us say we need Xerox copies of it. Why? Because the word Xerox became synonymous with photocopying. Why? Because Google became synonymous with going on the net and causing searches on the net and working on the net. If working for our communities can be taken to be at that level that it becomes synonymous with the word lion, it will happen. It's a long way off. It's a great dream. It's a great vision. I think all of us need to live with that vision and work forward.
Amen to that. The next question is, why LCI has not considered the option of conducting the international convention online instead of cancelling it? It would have been a good model for districts and multiples.
You see, we must understand that when LCI took the decision, that was in the much early, that's my opinion. I mean, the board had its own wisdom. It's in different parts of the world, and COVID was in different stages. People were booked there. They were booked for travels, and getting the people onto an international convention where 20,000, 30,000 people get together. I mean, on a personal level, even I try to keep looking around for platforms where we can hold a convention with 30, 20,000. And if you did it online, you would not have 20,000 delegates there. You would have perhaps had 200,000 delegates there. And I haven't found a platform. I tried to do some search, just generally to learn about it, whether there's any platform that even exists that can do a online conference with such number of delegates. I haven't found it, but maybe that will be the future. You see, that's what happened at that point of time. Today, when we talk of district conferences, what is the district conference? 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800,000. We've got platforms that do conferences with 1,000. You got this webinar. You're doing it at 500 capacity. We could have extended it to 1,000. There is 1,000. There's a 2,000 limit also. There's no limit for 200,000. That's the whole issue. Even technology, even the world has to go get up to that particular level. So it's not that LCA, that's the way I would look at it. That's purely a personal opinion, that had such technological options been open, the leadership, the president, the board, basically the board, would have looked at it differently. I have not found any, at least I'm not aware of any such platform which can handle a convention of 200,000, 300,000. I mean, look at the Lions from all. If they spend such a lot of money, they spend about 100,000 Indian rupees, maybe more, sometimes even 200,000 Indian rupees, which is $3,000, to go and attend an international convention. If it would have come for a $5, $10, $15 attendance fee, just a very nominal attendance fee for an online conference, what would be our level of attendance? So we've got to grow to that level. I'm not aware of that, whether that levels really existed.
Well, where there is need, there would be inventions. Let's hope so.
Yeah. Yes, of course we will. In future, it's going to happen. I'm sure it'll happen.
Indeed. The next question is the organization planning for an online training methodology for the district and club leaders at this juncture?
We already have our LLC. There are so many courses on the LLC. What is this organization? This organization is you. This organization is me. This organization is all of us. You've done a fantastic job today. I'm aware of so many districts in the country which are organizing it. I'm aware of districts, and some of them which I'm working with, my own home district. We are working towards organizing our cabinet and our PST schooling online. We're already working with it. The design's being worked, and I'm sure everybody's working with it. Why only us? Everybody's working with it. And from Lions International, already there is so much stuff available online, but I am sure the need for online was not as much as it is today. I'm sure it needs to be supplemented, complemented, increased, maybe altered, maybe changed. But then even our friends in Oakbrook are not being able to go back to office now. They can do it online, they can do it from home, but it's going to take time, because I think it's going to take some time, because it's a very big organization. But as such, so when we talk of our districts, I think it's all upon the local leadership to take charge, to take responsibility and move forward.
Sure. The next question. Do you think that the present LCI organization structure needs to be restructured for the future? And what will that be?
I really haven't thought of that. But this was a googly. I don't know who gave this question. Whose question is this?
Lion Anil Goradia.
Lion Anil, trust Lion Anil Garodia to do that. Trust Lion Anil Garodia, my good friend, to do that. Somebody who doesn't contest for a vice governor, but who keeps thinking of things politically. And that's good. There's no harm in that. He's a good friend. So I really haven't applied my mind to it. And things have been working. They've been working well. We've got a system that's got success. And we are making so many changes to it. And the changes keep on happening from every 2 to 3 years, some new changes or the other. We already have 2 Leos, young youth representation on the board. They may not even be Lions, but already we are hearing their voices. If you look at it, that slide of mine about deep listening to multiple voices, that's a voice that we need to listen. They're already members of our board, 2 of them. I mean, the changes are already happening at Lions International level. Africa needed to be recognized. Africa is a separate constitutional area now. They will have a voice on the international board. Of course, it got delayed by a year. Nobody knew about COVID-19. So those changes are happening. But if you feel that we can all think that there may be changes at a different pace, I really haven't thought about that, because they're already happening and they keep on happening. We are a living organization. We are an evolving organization. We keep evolving as per the needs. Anything else?
That's the end of the question, sir. And once again, let me thank you. As always, ever motivating. Believe you me, the numbers were increasing and we were getting messages that we can't log in, and people were waiting for your presentation. So I have been promising them that I'll be sending a recording of this, don't worry. And the next opportunity available, we will get AP sir to join us for some other webinar, for some other greater
Always a
topic.
pleasure. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And once again, congratulations for organizing this. Thank you very much.